If you're a hardcore sports fanatic, you're in the right place. Nathan Weller is ready to dish out the hard-hitting sports talk that you love. We're talking everything from NFL and AFL to the NBA, NHL, and even cricket. This is the Real Deal Sports Podcast.
Welcome everyone, I'm back. As you know, this is the Real Deal Sports Podcast. I am your host, Nathan. Before I begin today's podcast, there are just a couple of things I want to say and get off my chest. Firstly, I just want to apologize for my extended hiatus. There were a few things going on and I just had to take care of them. I'm back now, and I plan on recording and producing more content for you guys a bit more regularly. Secondly, I know it's a few days late and it's not really behind us all, but I just want to extend my thoughts and prayers to the families that were tragically affected by what happened in Manchester this week. Absolute travesty what happened over there. All those innocent people, young families, young children lost their lives at the hands of one cowardice person who just took it upon himself. Don't know if it means much, but I thought I'd just say that. With that being said, let's begin today's podcast. We'll kick it off with some NFL news. Alright, Hall of Famer and Seahawks great Cortez Kennedy has tragically passed away. The Hall of Famer Cortez Kennedy was found dead in Orlando, confirmed by an Orlando department spokeswoman. He was only 48, not very old at all there. Kennedy was drafted 3rd overall in the 1990 NFL Draft. He was drafted out of the University of Miami. Kennedy went on to have an 11-year career with the Seattle Seahawks, where the defensive tackle racked up 58 sacks. He was named in the Pro Bowl 8 times. Kennedy also earned 5 All-Pro selections. Kennedy was then inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2012. But as I said, dying at 48. Yeah, very young there, but had a good career, and rest in peace, Cortez Kennedy, I guess. Moving along to everyone's favourite team, that's a joke, everyone knows I hate this team. The New England Patriots have restructured Rob Gronkowski's deal. The New England Patriots have restructured the star tight end's deal salary to where he could earn up to $5.25 million to a possible $10.75 million in 2017. However, for Gronk to reach that type of money, he must meet certain requirements to reach that pay rise. The deal will go to $6.7 million if he can reach incentives such as 70% game time, 60 catches, 800 receiving yards, or 10 touchdowns. The deal will increase another $1 million if he can reach 80% game time, 70 catches, 1,000 receiving yards, or 12 touchdowns. But for Gronk's deal to get to the full $10.75 million that he would like to have, he would either have to have 90% game time, 80 catches, 1,200 receiving yards, or be a Pro Bowl selection. So it's pretty black and white, and it's pretty much in Gronk's hands how much of that increase he receives. He has been dealing with some injuries. I think this is his 6th year with the Patriots and in the NFL. But yeah, good for him. If he can reach those incentives get his money, good for him. But doesn't change the fact that I hate the New England Patriots. Moving along to one of the more popular NFL players, Odell Beckham Jr. Beckham has just secured the biggest shoe deal in NFL history. The most lucrative shoe deal for any NFL player. Nike and Beckham's agent have worked out a 5-year deal. Now, the reports are saying that the deal is worth $25 million over 5 years. And that's just a shoe contract. Just for shoes. It's not too bad, is it? Beckham's annual salary with the Giants will jump up to $8.5 million next season after the New York Giants picked up the 5th year of his contract in April. However, Beckham can also go out and get some more money via free agency if he can remain productive on the field, keep his emotions and anger in check, and remain healthy. But $25 million over 5 years for a shoe deal. I'd like that, but no one's going to pay me that much for shoe money. Moving along to some NBA news now, where Chris Bosh and the Miami Heat are close to reaching a solution where his pay salary will come off their salary cap. Now that Bosh failed a physical in the preseason this year after he missed the final part of both the 2014-15 and 2015-16 seasons due to blood clots. His contract doesn't expire till the end of the 2018-19 season. However, Bosh still thinks he can play and has interest in resuming his playing career. I don't know if he's going to play at Miami necessarily because they're worried about the blood clot situation. They don't want to have to deal with that. But he wants to continue playing. Where he'll play and what team will pick him up, I don't know. Haven't really been thinking about it too much. Over to the train wreck of the New York Knicks this year. If someone could tell me something that went right for the Knicks this year, please tell me. The whole Carmelo, Phil Jackson debacle, that played out for half the season. And Kristaps Porzingis, the star, their future, didn't turn up to their exit meeting. And he's over at Latvia at the moment, says he's not returning till preseason camp starts. But anyway, they have interest in Ricky Rubio. The New York Knicks are interested in reigniting their trade talks with the Timberwolves regarding Ricky Rubio. People in New York consider Rubio to fit their needs for a two-way contributor, which is something they're apparently missing. I think they're missing leadership and a good GM and a good coach. But yeah, they're after Ricky Rubio. Will he help the Knicks? I don't know. They've already got Brandon Jennings. They already have Derrick Rose. But yep, they're going after Ricky Rubio. So with Phil Jackson at the helm, anything can happen with New York. Over to the Orlando Magic now, where they have a new president of basketball operations, Jeff Weltman. Weltman has signed a 5-year deal agreeing to become the new president of basketball operations for the Orlando Magic. Weltman has been with the Toronto Raptors since 2013. He will replace Rob Hennigan, who was fired from the Magic at the start of the off-season. Weltman will decide who to hire as a GM, as he's just starting out as the president of basketball operations, but congratulations to the Orlando Magic. Last bit of NBA news I have here involves the Atlanta Hawks and Paul Millsap. Now, Millsap has decided to opt out of his $21.4 million contract with the Atlanta Hawks for the 2017-18 season. As a free agent in 2015, Millsap signed a 3-year deal with the Hawks. The deal was worth $60.2 million with a 3rd-year player option. Now he's obviously decided to opt out of that. Millsap is expected to command a max or near max contract. Big money coming Millsap's way apparently. But yeah, he's decided to opt out with the Atlanta Hawks. Having a look at some UFC news now, the fight between Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw will no longer be taking place at UFC 213. Garbrandt and Dillashaw has been scrapped from the pay-per-view as Garbrandt is set to miss with a back injury, which is a shame. I was actually looking forward to that fight, but not meant to be. With Garbrandt now on the sidelines, Dillashaw might be fighting Demetrius Johnson in August. That will be a good fight if that takes place as well, but was looking forward to Garbrandt versus Dillashaw, but oh well, injuries happen. Moving on. Yoel Romero will fight Australia's own Robert Whittaker for an interim title. Romero will fight Whittaker for the interim middleweight title in July. Now, UFC President Dana White has confirmed this, that the number 1 contender Romero will fight Whittaker for the interim 185-pound title, and that fight will happen at UFC 213. Well, let's all get behind Whittaker there. After all, he's from Australia. I think he's actually from Geelong. Don't hold me to that because I'm not too sure, but I think he's from Geelong. But yeah, it will be a tough fight, but yeah, it should be an interesting one to watch. Moving on, with the Mayweather-McGregor fight moving closer and closer towards it actually happening, there's one person who's not a fan of it. Oscar De La Hoya. De La Hoya is very concerned about boxing's future if this fight between McGregor and Mayweather goes down and goes forward. De La Hoya agrees with some sections of the media and fans saying that this fight is a farce. He actually went on to call it a joke of a fight, and that it will have long-lasting effects on boxing since the fight itself has no credibility, which is a fair enough comment. It's going to be an exhibition match. It's not really for anything. De La Hoya went on to say that true boxing fans should not encourage this fight, not pay to see it, and make a stand. Now, this is interesting. I've spoken to a few people recently about this fight. I actually spoke to one of my good friends last week about it, about his thoughts of what could happen, and he had a good point. Now, I'm not taking credit. This is what he said. He thinks that why all of a sudden Mayweather has said, no, I'm not fighting him. There's nothing in it for me. No, I'm not fighting him. I need 100 million. But all of a sudden he wants to fight McGregor. Now what he thinks could happen is that the fix could be in that Mayweather and McGregor's fight would be fixed. That I think he said McGregor would get paid more money if he took the loss. So what would happen was they fight, McGregor takes the loss and he gets paid, 90 million, and Mayweather gets paid 70 million. Mayweather gets his perfect 15-0 record, no doubts there, he gets 70 million, and McGregor gets his 90 million, and he gets paid to basically throw the fight. The more and more I thought about it, I thought that was a good suggestion. No matter what really happens, if this fight happens, there's going to be controversy, people are going to question it because, well, boxing's history, of course, but there's been back and forth. Mayweather said, I'm not fighting, I am fighting, I'm not fighting, I'm not fighting. But I'm, for one, looking forward to it. I like both fighters because I like trash talking. They can both definitely bring that. But if it happens, I know I'll be watching. Don't know who I'll be going for, but it should be interesting to see what happens. Moving on to my last piece of UFC news here. Sage Northcutt will return to the octagon at UFC 214. Now, after an up and down 2016, going 1 win and 2 losses at welterweight, the UFC prospect Northcutt is returning to lightweight for his first fight in 2017. I don't think they've announced his opponent yet. I don't know who he's going to fight. But the UFC have confirmed that Northcutt's returning fight will take place at UFC 214. But yeah, I don't know who he's going to fight there. But dropping down from welterweight to lightweight for Northcutt should be an interesting move. But yeah, that's all for the UFC news. We've got some AFL news coming at you up next. First bit of AFL news I have here is that Stuart Cramery's season is over. He won't be playing any more this season. Cramery's 2017 season has officially come to an end. Cramery is going to miss the rest of the season with an ongoing hip injury, and the Western Bulldogs have confirmed that Cramery should be ready for the 2018 pre-season after he had hip surgery this week. Having said that, the Western Bulldogs coach Luke Beveridge has come out and said that Cramery is a wanted and required player, and that all questions over his future at the Bulldogs should be put to a stop because they love him, they want to keep him, and that he isn't going anywhere. Having a look at the AFLW now, Brisbane AFLW star Taylor Harris has been traded to Carlton. Harris was traded to Carlton in a complicated trade involving a few teams. In the trade, Carlton have given up Jacobson, Eyre, and Exon. In return, they've received Taylor Harris and pick 12 in the draft. Harris now joins Darcy Vesio, who I think was the leading goal kicker for the AFL Women's last season. Those two will form a formidable forward line for the second season of AFLW. And I wouldn't want to be lining up against those two, so look out. Carlton could be the hot favourite to win the premiership next season with those two guns up forward. Moving on to some news involving the Brisbane Lions men's team. Brisbane and Tom Rockcliffe have begun talks for a new contract. Now, Both parties were happy to part ways during the trade period last season, but there weren't too many suitors for Rockcliffe due to I think it came down to his attitude and, frankly, his price tag he was wanting was way too high. I think he was asking for $800,000 a season. I could be wrong, but I think that's what he was asking for. But reports are saying that Rockcliffe has returned to the Lions with an improved attitude, and it's showing. He's reproducing some of his best form on field, averaging 30 possessions. So if he keeps that up, I think he could be getting close to, maybe not 800,000, but he could be getting a nice pay rise at Brisbane, and it's good to see that he might actually want to stay this time. Like last year he wanted to leave, but good to see he wants to stay with the Lions. Before I wrap up today's episode of the Real Deal Sports Podcast, we're going to have a look at the AFL's most wanted men. According to the Herald Sun, these are the most wanted players during the trade period this season. Now, these are ranked in their order from their opinion, so please don't crucify me if you disagree with this list. It's their opinion and how they ranked them in order, how they think these are the people most wanted. Let's get started here. Number 1, Josh Kelly from the GWS Giants. He's uncontracted. He looks like he could be heading to North. Number 2, Nat Fyfe from Fremantle. He's a free agent. I don't expect him to leave Fremantle. Number 3, Dustin Martin from Richmond. He is also a free agent. That's a 50-51, maybe more 60-40 towards him leaving, which saddens me as a Richmond supporter, but I see him going to another team. Number 4 is an interesting one. Stephen May from the Gold Coast. Now, he's uncontracted. I think that's a bit high for May, considering his disciplinary issues on field. But, number 4 they've got. Number 5, Sam Reid from Sydney. He's a free agent. Again, I think that's a bit high considering the injury concerns he's had over the years. But number 5 for Sam Reid. Number 6, Josh Shackey from Brisbane. He's uncontracted. I think Brisbane's starting to come around to the terms that he's going to leave. They've given him a few weeks off personal leave. They say that it's not revolving around his contract issue, but I disagree. I think it is. They've given him time off to think about it. Number 7, Jackson Trengrove from Port Adelaide, a free agent. I can't see Port letting him go. Let him go without a fight. He's pretty pivotal to their team as a ruckman/defender. Number 8, Lachie Whitfield from the Giants. He's contracted. Again, not much news coming out that he wants to leave or that he's going to leave, so I don't know what's going to happen there. Number 9, another GWS player, Devon Smith. He's uncontracted. Whispers that he could be on the move, could be squeezed out. Geelong and Collingwood are the 2 teams I'm hearing at the moment, but who knows. Number 9, number 10 I should say, sorry. Zach Jones from Sydney. He's uncontracted. Now, I would be surprised if Sydney let him go. I know they have a few other contracts that need to be dealt with, but I think this should be their first priority. He's an X-factor off the backline, and they don't really have anyone else like him, so I think that should be a priority to get his signature for the Sydney Swans. Number 11, Mitch McGovern from Adelaide. Someone who's gone a bit under the radar. I think he's got an injury, but he's uncontracted, and he would be a good forward target for anyone. But again, I haven't heard that he wants to leave or that Adelaide is shopping him around, but he'd be a good forward option for a team that needs one. Number 12, Jason Johannesson, the Norm Smith medalist from the Western Bulldogs. He's uncontracted. I've read reports he's asking for $750,000 plus per season. There were early whispers that Essendon were interested, but I think they might have died off since Essendon might be interested in Dustin Martin now, so I don't know what happens with JJ. Gary Ablett from the Gold Coast Suns. He's contracted, but this is going to continue all season. He asked for a trade last year, was rejected by the Gold Coast. He'll probably ask again this year to go back to Geelong for personal reasons, but again, he's contracted, so Geelong are going to have to give up something. Number 14, Tom Rockcliffe. He's a free agent. I said before that he's working with the Brisbane Lions to get a new contract signed, so he might be one to come off that list. Number 15, David Zaharakis from Essendon, who's a free agent at the end of the year. But again, it's a bit too early to say if Zaharakis is going to leave. I don't see why he'd want to leave. Essendon playing some great footy recently. They're a young team. They've got all their band players back. Don't know why they want to leave unless it's for a premiership. That'd be my only guess there. Number 16, Stephen Motlop from Geelong. Now, the last few seasons, I should say, he's been sniffing, and Geelong have been looking to find him a new home. No real suitors. He came back last season fat. No easy way to say it, but he came back fat. He could find a new home, but I don't know. If Gary Ablett comes in, does Stephen Motlop go out? Something to think about. And number 17 on this list, I didn't know was a free agent. Jasper Pittard from Port. Like Zach Jones from Sydney, I don't think Port can let him go. He doesn't always play consistent footy, but he has that X factor, that bursting speed off the half-back line, and I reckon Port would be in big trouble if they let him go. But again, these are ranked from the Herald Sun, not me. So there's some interesting ones on that list, some ones that were a bit high for mine, some that took me by surprise, but there we go. That's it. They were the Herald Sun, and you don't have to agree or disagree with them. And that's all I have for you guys today. This has been the returning episode of the Real Deal Sports Podcast. As I said at the beginning, I apologize for my extended hiatus, but yeah, there was some things I had to take care of. But I'm back now, and hopefully coming at you more regularly. Same with my sister podcast, Wrestling Talk Unleashed. I think I might be putting one out next week for those who are interested in that. But this has been the Real Deal Sports Podcast. I am your host, Nathan. As always, if you feel like you want to discuss, comment, message me about anything I've said today, that would be great. More than happy to discuss and debate with you guys. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy listening to this episode of the Real Deal Sports Podcast.